Jai Hind students, how are you all? Welcome to my YouTube channel. Students, let me start this session with the saying that you cannot learn without failure. What I mean to say is that never be afraid of failure. Never think yourself as a loser. Instead, learn from failure. Everyone here in this world is born to win. That is, everyone have the capacity to win. A winner is one who responds authentically by being credible, trustworthy and responsive and genuine both as an individual and as a member of society. So students, try to be a winner. Winner make the transition from total helplessness to independence and interdependence. So with that, let's start today's session. Today we are going to discuss a very important concept of self-inductance of a solenoid. In the earlier lecture, we have discussed about self-induction, isn't it? The factors on which the self-induction of a coil depends. So today we are going to mathematically justify that. We are going to derive a mathematical expression for the self-inductance of a solenoid. So what we do is, let us consider a long solenoid. This is a long solenoid, suppose. Let us consider the solenoid to be having n identical turns, and let us consider its length to be L. This is suppose a long solenoid, right? And current I is made to pass through it. This is current I flowing through the solenoid. Suppose its length is L. And let us consider the cross-sectional area. I am talking about this cross-sectional area of each turn of this solenoid be A, right? And number of turns, let us consider the number of turns of the solenoid is N. Therefore, students, number of turns per unit length. Number of turns per unit length will be given by small n, and it is equal to number of turns divided by length. Number of turns, that is capital N, it will not have any unit. But number of turns per unit length, it will have SI unit of per meter. Isn't it? The small n is the number of turns per unit length, right? So, when the current is made to pass through the coil, we are aware that the magnetic field lines inside a long solenoid, it is almost represented by equidistant parallel lines. So, what we consider is, for a long straight current carrying solenoid, the magnetic field at any point well inside the solenoid may be assumed to be constant. And in the previous unit, we have discussed the strength of the magnetic field at any point inside a current carrying solenoid is given by N mu naught I. Mu naught obviously is the absolute permeability of the free space. I is the current which is made to pass through the coil, and N is the number of turns per unit length. So this magnetic field inside a long current carrying solenoid may be considered to be constant. Therefore, the magnetic flux linked with single turn of the coil, single turn of the solenoid, it will be given by B dot A. This is the dot product or the scalar product. Now magnetic field as well as area vector both are in the same direction. So angle being 0 degree, cos 0 becomes 1. So dot product gets eliminated. So it will be simply given by, in place of B you can write N mu naught I and A, which is considered to be the area of each coil, right? So this is the magnetic flux associated with the single turn of the solenoid. Therefore, the total flux linked with the solenoid is given by phi is equal to magnetic flux linked with one turn. It will be obviously given by magnetic flux linked with one turn or single turn multiplied by total number of identical turns, multiplied by number of identical turns, right? So let's substitute the value and get the total magnetic flux linked with the solenoid. So magnetic flux linked with one turn is N mu naught Ia, and the total number of turns is considered to be capital N. So N mu naught Ia, we can substitute the value of capital N as small n into L. So total magnetic flux linked with this long current carrying solenoid is N square mu naught IAL. Put this as equation number 1, right? Now in the previous lecture we have discussed that if L, capital L, is considered to be the self-inductance of the coil. It is considered to be the self-inductance or the coefficient of self-induction of the coil, then the total magnetic flux associated with the solenoid is given by L times I. I is the current which is made to pass through this coil, right? So from 1 and 2, we can easily get the expression for L. So from 1 and 2, what we get is Li is equal to N square mu naught IAL. I get cancelled. Therefore, the expression for the self-inductance of a solenoid is given by N square mu naught AL. So, this is the expression for the self-inductance of a long current carrying solenoid. The point to be noted over here is it does depend upon the nature of the material of the core, if any, right? It will depend upon its permeability of the material of the core, if any. It does depend upon the shape of the coil as well. So self-inductance depends upon the cross-sectional area. It depends upon the length. It depends upon the nature of material of the core, if any. And also it depends upon the number of turns. Now N is not constant. On increasing or decreasing L or the number of turns, the value of self-inductance also get changed. Actually, small n is equal to capital N by L, number of turns per unit length. Therefore, in terms of the number of turns, small n is the number of turns per unit length. So in terms of the total number of turns, the self-inductance would be given by N square mu naught AL divided by L square. In place of small n, just write capital N by L, right? So, what we get is self-inductance of a coil is N square mu naught A divided by L. This is more important expression than this one. So basically what we have proved is for a given coil, the self-inductance of a coil, it is directly proportional to the square of the number of turns. So if the number of turns is made twice, the self-inductance of the coil will become 4 times. Second, it is inversely proportional to the length of the solenoid. Now, this formula won't be used in case you want to find relationship between self-inductance and the length of the solenoid, because on changing length of the solenoid, this value of small n will also get changed. So in such a case, make use of this particular expression. Because on changing the length, if the other factors remaining constant, then self-inductance of a coil is found to be inversely proportional to the length of the solenoid. That is, on increasing the length of the solenoid, the self-inductance of the coil decreases. It does depend upon the cross-sectional area. And as I've told you, it depends upon the magnetic permeability as well. If you introduce a soft iron core where the permeability value is very, very large, magnetic permeability of a soft iron core, which is a ferromagnetic material, is very large. So the self-inductance will greatly get increased, isn't it? So students, again I repeat, the self-inductance of a solenoid depends upon the number of turns. It depends upon the shape of the solenoid. That is, it depends upon the length of the solenoid as well as the cross-section area, right? And it depends upon the nature of the material of the core, if any. Suppose a core is introduced whose magnetic permeability is mu. Then, if a core is introduced, then the self-inductance is given by n square. In place of mu naught, it would be mu AL, isn't it? And mu is mu naught into mu R AL. Mu R is the relative permeability of the material of the core, if any. For ferromagnetic substances, mu R is very, very large as compared to 1. So, if you introduce a ferromagnetic material like soft iron as a core, then due to the large value of mu R, the self-inductance of the coil will also get greatly enhanced. Now, let us find out an expression for the energy stored in a solenoid and the energy density in terms of the magnetic field. We are aware, students, in case of a coil or a solenoid, the energy resides in the form of magnetic field. So earlier we have derived the expression for the energy stored in a coil, and that is half Li square, isn't it? L is the self-inductance of the coil. So suppose L is the self-inductance of the coil. The length of the coil is considered to be small l, right? Let I be the current which is flowing through this coil. Cross-sectional area of each turn, it's considered to be A, right? So the energy stored, this we have proved in the earlier section, the energy stored in a coil is half Li square. This is the expression which we have derived in the earlier session, right? And this energy gets stored in the coil in the form of its magnetic field. So, our objective is to write this expression for the energy stored in a solenoid or a coil in terms of the magnetic field. So, put this as equation A. Now, students, just now we have discussed the self-inductance of a coil is given by the self-inductance of a coil or solenoid is given by L is equal to mu naught n square La, isn't it? Put this as equation B. Here small n is obviously the number of turns per unit length, right? N is the number of turns. Small n is the number of turns per unit length. Also, we are aware when the current is made to pass through this long straight coil, what happens is the magnetic field well inside the coil, it is always constant. That is, the magnetic field lines inside the long straight current carrying solenoid, they are almost equidistant and parallel. So the magnetic field inside can be considered to be constant. And this magnetic field is given by N mu naught I. This was one of the application of Ampere's circuit law, and there in that section we have proved this article. So the current flowing through this coil in terms of the magnetic field may be written as B divided by N mu naught, right? So now what we do is simply substitute this value of L and I from equation B and C in equation A. So therefore the energy stored in the coil would be given by half, let's substitute the value of L from equation B, it is mu naught N square LA, and I square, it is B over N mu naught, and it will be whole square. So we have made use of B and C. Now let's try to evaluate it. So what we get is half mu naught N square LA, and over here we get B square divided by N square mu naught square. So what we are left with is N square get cancelled, mu naught and 1 mu naught will get cancelled. So we get B square AL divided by twice mu naught. So students, this is the expression for the potential energy stored in a coil, that is half B square by mu naught into AL. This is the expression in terms of the magnetic field. So always remember, the energy gets stored in the coil in the form of its magnetic field. So this is the expression, right? Now let us find out the expression for the energy density. Now energy density, we all are aware, it is actually the energy stored in the coil per unit its volume. It is the energy stored per unit its volume. So the SI unit of energy is joule. The SI unit of volume is meter cube. So the SI unit of energy density is joule per meter cube, right? So let's obtain the expression for the energy density. So energy density of a solenoid is given by energy, we are aware of the expression. It is half B square AL divided by mu naught divided by volume. What will be the volume of this coil? It's in the form of a cylinder, isn't it? So it will be cross-sectional area multiplied by length. So volume of the solenoid would be cross-sectional area multiplied by length. So AL get cancelled. So the energy density of the solenoid is given by half B square divided by mu naught. So this is a very, very important expression. And as I have told you, energy density is actually the energy stored in the coil per unit its volume. And its SI unit is joule per meter cube. Its SI unit is joule per meter cube, right? And it may be recollected that electrostatic energy stored per unit volume in a parallel plate capacitor, it's given by half epsilon naught E square. Now just remember the electrostatic energy. This is just to recollect the earlier topics. So the electrostatic energy stored per unit volume in the case of parallel plate capacitor. This was found to be half epsilon naught E square. Now observe the similarity between these two. This is the energy density in the case of a coil, and this is the energy density in the case of a capacitor. Here the energy is stored in the form of magnetic field, and here the energy gets stored in the space between the plates of the capacitor in the form of electric field. So look at the similarity between these two. In both the cases, the energy stored per unit volume is proportional to the square of the field strength. In both the cases, energy density is proportional to the square of the field strength. That's the similarity. Right? So always remember, the energy gets stored in the coil in the form of magnetic field. This is the expression for the energy stored in the coil. This is the expression for the energy density. And in case you may recollect that electrostatic energy stored per unit volume in a parallel plate capacitor is given by half epsilon E square. It is the absolute permittivity of free space. So in both the cases, the energy density is directly proportional to the square of the field strength. Right? So that's an important conclusion. Now let us try to attempt this related question. We are supposed to find out how does the self-inductance of a coil change when the number of turns in the coil is decreased, an iron rod is introduced into it, and if the length is reduced to half, keeping other factors constant. So students, in this case, we should be aware of the formula for the self-inductance. The self-inductance of a coil is given by N square mu naught AL. Now here we are aware small n is the number of turns per unit length, isn't it? Small n is the number of turns per unit length. Therefore, substituting this value of small n over here, the actual formula for the self-inductance in terms of the number of turns, it would be N square mu naught A divided by, we will be left with only L in the denominator, right? N square is capital N square divided by L square, so L square and L, one L will be left in the denominator. So this is the formula to be used in order to answer the above question. Now let's concentrate on the first part. Okay. First part is when the number of turns in the coil is decreased. Now students, look, L is proportional to N square. So with the decrease in the number of turns, the self-inductance of the coil will also get decreased. If the number of turns is made half, then self-inductance will become 1 by 4 times. So if number of turns is reduced to half, then new self-inductance of the coil will become 1 by 4 times, because it is directly proportional to the square of the number of turns. So definitely, as the number of turns in the coil is decreased, the self-inductance decreases. The self-inductance of the coil will definitely decrease. Right? Let's attempt the second one. An iron rod is introduced into it. When an iron rod, say, of relative permeability mu r is introduced, then what we can write is the self-inductance of the coil in this case would be given by N square. In place of mu naught, we will write mu. Mu is the absolute permeability of the iron rod under consideration, and mu r, relative permeability, we are aware it is the ratio of absolute permeability of the medium to the absolute permeability of free space, which implies that mu may be written as mu r multiplied by mu naught. So what we get is N square. In place of mu we can write mu r mu naught A by L, isn't it? So students, for iron, it is a ferromagnetic material. mu r is very, very large as compared to 1, and therefore L will increase. So on the introduction of an iron rod, which is a ferromagnetic material, the self-inductance of the coil will get greatly enhanced. It will increase manifold, right? Third one. If the length is reduced to half, keeping other factors constant. Okay, again, let's consider on the same formula. Keeping all these other factors constant, the self-inductance is inversely proportional to the length of the coil. So if the length, new length, is equal to half the original length, then new self-inductance, it will become twice of its original value. Look friends, it is inversely proportional. So if it is decreased to half value, it will increase to twice its original value. If it is made 1/3, the self-inductance of the coil will become 3 times. So it is inversely proportional to the length of the coil, other factors remaining constant. So on decreasing the length of the coil, the self-inductance will get increased, right? Now let's try another question. A coil has inductance of 5 Henry and resistance of 20 ohm. An EMF of 100 volt is applied to it. What is the energy that gets stored in the coil in the form of magnetic field when the current has reached its final steady value? So students, first let's write down the given values. The self-inductance of the coil is given to be 5 Henry. The resistance offered by the coil, I'm talking about the ohmic resistance, it's 20 ohm. And the applied EMF, that is given to be 100 volt. Now as we are aware, when the current attains its peak value, then the only resistance offered by the inductor will be the ohmic resistance, and in such a case the current, it would be given by E by R, which is 100 divided by 20. So students, current flowing through the coil is 5 ampere. 100 by 20, that will be 5 ampere. Now we are supposed to find out the energy stored in the coil. Energy stored in the coil is given by the formula half L I square. Obviously this energy gets stored in the coil in the form of its magnetic field. So we need to simply substitute the values of L and I. The self-inductance, it's given to be 5. Current is also found to be 5, so it's 5 square. So what we get is 125 divided by 2. Isn't it? And this is given in Henry. So what we get is 62.5 joule. So this is the energy stored in the coil, students. And remember, this energy gets stored in the coil in the form of its magnetic field, right? So students, I hope you have enjoyed this session and you have understood each and every topic. So that's it for this particular session. And do join me in my next lecture. Till then, goodbye and do take very good care of yourself. Thank you.